Christine and the Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald movie is out! As you may or may not know, The Crimes of Grindelwald was my most anticipated movie of the year. Overall thoughts. The Crimes of Grindelwald feels like, to me, like the season of a television show that sets up for the next season. They tried to pack a lot of information into this film, and I feel like they had a hard time balancing those storylines in terms of editing. I love all the character moments. Those are the strongest parts. Young Dumbledore is the highlight of the film. Everything with Dumbledore was my favorite thing ever. Jude Law nails Dumbledore. He is perfect. Everything we see at Hogwarts is everything. I was fortunate enough to be invited to this Warner Brothers fan event at the Wizarding World, and they had a little panel there, and Jude Law was on this panel, and when he was getting off the stage, he looked over his sunglasses and his eyes met mine, and they were just this bright ass blue, and my heart, I was like, Dumbledore just looked at me! I can't. There are things that I had some issues with. My issues were mostly execution stuff with the directing and the editing, but the actual stuff that's happening and we're learning, oh my, I just was geeking out the entire time. I know I gave Fantastic Beasts an A. I'm gonna give The Crimes of Grindelwald a B. I do think that the first film was stronger, but I also think that everything we saw in this film has set us up for a really, really great third film. I have created an in-depth list of everything I want to talk about, my positives, my negatives, my overall observations and theories. So I'm gonna get into that now. Let's discuss everything. Everything! Okay, I'm gonna try to alternate between the things I liked and the things I didn't like. Sorry if I get off balance, but just know, in the end, I still enjoyed the crap out of myself watching this film. Let's start with the opening scene, shall we? Grindelwald is at the American Ministry of Magic. He's being transferred. I love the score. I liked the score in the last film, of course, but this score, I don't know why it stands out so much more to me. I would have liked to see how Grindelwald pulled this off. And I'm assuming, you know, they say that they've had to change his guard twice or 3 times or whatever, and one of those guards, one of those times, was a follower of Grindelwald and had Polyjuice Potion and switched places with him. It was all very reminiscent of Book 4, Harry Potter, when we learn about Barty Crouch Jr. and how he and his mother swapped places in Azkaban. When will the prisons put up some sort of guard against Polyjuice Potion? You know, like, why is it so easy? Why is this something that can happen so quickly and so often? How many times have people escaped from prison with Polyjuice Potion? What's going on there? I want to know more about Grindelwald. I want to see him and how he does the things he does. We know he's a great wizard, but like, I would have liked to see him sweet talking that guard into switching places with him. I want to see his process, because I feel like we have to assume a lot. The more we know about a villain, and I like what we do know about Grindelwald, I think he's a very fascinating character, but I want to know more. I want more. I want his childhood. And I want to hear him have a conversation with someone he cares about, because we know that he did care about Dumbledore. We know that he's not like Voldemort, that he is capable of some sort of love and relationships with people. We still have this open-ended thing with the last line that we hear him say in Fantastic Beasts. Won't we all die a little or something? It was some sort of anagram. He said it to Newt Scamander. What does that mean? So the first Fantastic Beasts film, I went into that with exciting, hopeful expectations, and I came out feeling completely charmed and warm and fuzzy and full of these lovable characters. And in this second film, I felt a huge lack of those character moments. We had a couple, but there weren't many. But my favorite one, and it's one of the only ones, is when Newt and Jacob are walking to the Portkey, and he's asking Jacob what he should say to Tina if he sees her. And then we have the culmination of that moment when Newt is with Tina. I feel that a lot of scenes were cut from this film. A lot of speaking scenes. I know they must have been there, because just by seeing the trailers, I've seen like 3 different moments where the characters are talking that weren't included at all. Like, there's this moment in the trailers where Credence and Nagini are on the roof, and you see Credence's black stuff coming out of his arm. That's not in the film. There's a moment where Jacob gets excited about going on another adventure in Newt's house that wasn't in the film. It felt like almost every scene where 2 characters were talking was chopped. Like, the director chose to include spectacle over development, and I much prefer a character-based film. But instead, the film put a lot of its time into showing us these grandiose action sequences, some of which weren't even necessary for the plot. Like, they were just there to be flashy, to catch your attention. I want that time with our characters. I don't need that time with like the Chinese dragon escaping the Ministry of Magic with Newt on its back, trying to be the trio breaking out of Gringotts. You escaped, I get it. And there were a bunch of scenes like that. Even the scene where in Newt's house where we first see all the animals and we learn about that Kelpie. I mean, maybe the Kelpie is gonna come back into play further down the road or something, but we spent a lot of time there. We spent a huge amount of time with that battle at the end with the fire that didn't really do anything for me. It didn't feel as epic as they were trying to make it feel, and we knew that they were gonna get rid of it. I was like, I want the dialogue. I don't need to see 5-minute sequence of this one little baby battle with the fiend fire that's okay. I gotta go into the issues that I had with it because they're bursting out of me. I loved a lot of things and I'll naturally be talking about them throughout this video, but there are a few things that bothered me. The first being the lack of character moments and the overwhelming feeling that dialogue was cut from every scene. The other giant thing that bothered me were the inconsistencies with magic. Now, David Yates directed Harry Potter films 5, 6, 7, and 8, and I'm confused as to why he's changing the look of magic that we've seen already in those films. You have to be consistent to make things feel real, but he's just like doing things so different. Just in general, the overall look of the world is different. In the Harry Potter films that we know and love, there's this medieval, almost like anti-technology feel to everything that's in the wizarding world. And people just don't do magic for shits and giggles. Things aren't just like floating around and huge and just stuff in the streets. It's not like that. We go into Diagon Alley and people are walking around and shopping. Yes, there's bits and bobs of magic, but it's not a big deal because we do magic all the time. It's not like, look at me! I'm magic! And second, in the wizarding world, we know in the future, this takes place in the 90s, Harry Potter, wizards don't dress like muggles. Like, they don't even know how to dress like muggles. They're in their robes and doing whatever the F they want with fashion. But in these movies, it's like we're a part of the muggle world. We're living amongst muggles. Everyone's in their 20s gear. Everything's like very hip to the 20s. It's just, it doesn't make sense with the canon that's already set up. We're beyond time in the Harry Potter wizarding world, but we're totally in and hip with the times in the Fantastic Beasts films. Which, okay, is a look. It's fine. That's something that I can push past. That really didn't even start to bother me until this film, because it was just so overwhelmingly 20s-like. But the magic! The first thing we see is this love potion that Queenie puts on Jacob. I'm a little confused as to why she did that, but I could see her doing it, okay? We see Ron take a love potion in Harry Potter, and we can't magic it out of him. Professor Slughorn can't magic it out of him. If there was a spell that could magic the love potion out in a second, he would have done it. He made up a little potion. And then Ron just drank it and no heart popped out of his head and went Why? Why was it like that? Why can't we be consistent? At least when Newt Scamander did that thing and the pink came out of him. Could it just be the pink coming out of him instead of being like heart, 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 heart? Like, we can tell. We're adults and we know what's going on. Could you not? Next is apparition. I'm so confused. Apparating and disapparating. We've seen it, like they swirl around in a circle and go. Now, we had this little discrepancy with apparating and disapparating in 5 when David Yates came around and made it so that like when the Death Eaters are apparating, they're dark clouds of smoke. And sometimes when the Order of the Phoenix comes, they're like white clouds of smoke. But that aside, when we apparate and disapparate, it's been like a now, we have that in this film too. There's apparating that looks like that and sounds like that. And then at the end, when Grindelwald is like, leave, everyone, leave, they poof up into smoke, straight up into a sky. Like, these are continuity errors in the same film. What's happening? I was just like, they just thought that looked cool and was like, that's fine. This is what makes a film grounded. When you are consistent with the types of magic and what they look like and what they do. When you make it different with each time, it starts to feel like a different world, a different film, a different rules. You can't do that! And then we have the portkey. We've seen a portkey. They hold onto it and they like swirl around in the air and then pop down wherever they're supposed to land. I don't understand why we made the portkey look like they were apparating. It was like they apparated when they stepped into the bucket, but it was clearly a portkey. Why couldn't you just make it consistent? I know you didn't direct movie 4. Maybe that's not how you imagined it. But by changing it now, after that's like visual canon that we've studied and watched literally for years and years and years, it's unsettling. This isn't a whole new series do-over. This is a prequel to that series. They should match They should match. I'm sorry. Also, back to talking about things that they cut out. I watched an interview recently with Dumbledore and Newt on Graham Norton's show, and Newt was talking about how he wrote his book, this time that we've missed between the two films, and that he's kind of gotten famous now. He's really uncomfortable with that, and that's completely cut out of the film. That's something that I would have loved to see. Newt being uncomfortable and his book being popular and people knowing about it. We see two little snippets that allude to the idea, but they're just little things that you're just kind of confused as to why they're saying. Like the guy with the portkey is like, oh, Newt Scamander, you're too famous, he'll leave for $30. He's famous because of his book. We don't know that. I was like, why does everyone know him? Because of what happened in New York? And then, of course, Tina says, I read your book. There's no emphasis on the book, which is such a big deal. That's how we know him. That's how we've connected him in general to everything. That's the name of the movie series. I want to see the extended version of this film. They were like, you know what? I'd rather spend 5 minutes watching blue swirling dragons just fight in the air for no reason. So Grindelwald hosts this rally, which I really loved, this rally scene. I think it was so well done. I love how they're tying World War II into this, because you could see how people could really get on board with that. Like, oh no, the Muggles are going to destroy themselves. We need to take charge of them. It was so cool to see it tie into our history, right? But at the end of the rally, he puts this blue fire around him, which looks like an age line, right? We've been in this world for a long time. We've seen an age line. Anyone who passes through, if they're devoted to his cause, they'll pass through without dying. Same sort of concept as the age line too. But then he explodes it outward and like turns it into fiend fire. We've also seen fiend fire, right? And that's what turned into all those dragons and animals in the 7th Part 2 Harry Potter movie. We know these visuals, but they're like mixing them and making them weird, like make it its own thing if it's something different. But I got the impression that this is Fiendfire, because he's like, I'll destroy the whole city, and if it gets out of control, there won't be any stopping it, because that's what we know about Fiendfire. So, was it Fiendfire? Was it an age line? Like, why was it blue if it was Fiendfire? We've seen Fiendfire and it's yellow and red, and can you please just keep this shit straight so that we can feel like it's real? It's hard to stay on board the real train when you mix up the visual rules and cues from the other films. It's hard to pick the movie apart and be like, oh my god, that little thing looked a lot like this little thing, so they must be referring back to this and that must be this spell. If they're just like fucking around with the rules of all the other spells. You can't take everything in the movie as seriously as you want to, and it sucks. I really wish we had this movie in book form. I think it would be amazing. And then the last thing with the magic inconsistencies that kind of threw me was the unbreakable vow. Because we've seen an unbreakable vow between Narcissa and Snape in Half-Blood Prince, and this like windy bit of magic circled their hands and squeezed, and that was it. Like there was no cutting of the palms or anything like that. And then we talk about in this film a blood oath. So Dumbledore and Grindelwald entered into a blood oath. So that's something completely different as far as we know, right? So they slit open their hands and shook hands, and then there was a physical manifestation of the blood oath, which is that little bauble that Grindelwald has been carrying around that the Niffler got and gave to Newt, and Newt gave it to Dumbledore, and Dumbledore can maybe destroy it, so it's not like the unbreakable vow that if you break it, you die, and there's nothing you could do about it. There's this physical manifestation of it that maybe they could destroy. So that sounds like that's the blood oath. But there's this scene with that Lestrange guy, and when he's passed out, Tina is looking at his hands, and they have the cuts on them, and she says these look like evidence of an unbreakable vow. Which I'm like, we just saw that that's a blood oath. That's not an unbreakable vow. An unbreakable vow is this that we see Snape and Narcissa do. I'm just confused. It's like they're muddling their own stuff up. What's going on? Why are they confusing their own rules in so many different ways? And even in Paris, the entrance to their version of Diagon Alley in London, you tap on the bricks and then the bricks move away. And it's in the back of the leaky cauldron. In Paris, we see this moving statue in the middle of a Muggle street. And I'm just like, it moves all the time. And it's not like a quick move. It's like, whoo. People can see you. I would notice a moving statue in the middle of the street. Switching gears to stuff I liked, I loved this insight into the Lestrange family. Her half-brother trying to get revenge, and Lita's younger brother dying on this ship. This whole reveal with the babies being switched by Lita, who, oh my god, that's terrible. What I'm thinking is Lita had to have known who that other baby was. She didn't just go into a random room. She had to know that there was a baby there. And I'm wondering, was Ariana Dumbledore on this ship? Is this ship the Titanic? Because the timing lines up. You really really quickly see the edge of the ship, but we're too kind of preoccupied with this flashback and the fact that there's a dying baby and that she switched the babies to really think about it in the moment. Like, are they on the Titanic? Why were the Dumbledores going to America? Who else was on that ship? What's going on there? The end of this movie, the first time I saw it, we see the Phoenix in Credence's hand, and I'm like, wait a minute. No! And Grindelwald starts talking about the story of the Phoenix and your family, and I'm like, no! 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 I flipped all my shits, and I couldn't not say out loud. I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. The first time I saw it was at an early screening, and the second time I saw it was with a bunch of people watching the movie. And the second time I saw it, no one reacted. It was just silent. The first time I saw it, there was like 20 people in the theater, and we were like, oh my god. And I was like yelling, oh my god, and there was just, oh my god. But the second time, there was like no reaction. I'm like, people, can't you see? Can't you see what's happening here? There's a fourth Dumbledore child. Oh my god. I'm really curious about if Lita knows Ariana, if they were, you know, kind of hanging out on the Titanic, and that's why she knew to go to that room to switch the babies. There's gotta be more going on there. Then you start thinking like Credence is an Obscurial, and from everything we've been hearing, it sounds like Ariana was also an Obscurial. What the fuck? So Dumbledore theoretically had two siblings who were Obscurials. What the for? And we keep talking about the prophecy of like tetanus or something. Like, have you read the prophecy of tetanus? They said to Dumbledore, and Dumbledore's like, yeah, ages ago, of course. And they're like, oh, we think it might be referring to Credence. The loss of the son and the despair of the daughter. The lost son is Credence, and the despair of the daughter is Ariana, okay? So Ariana might feel immense guilt about this loss of her brother. That's why I'm tying it to the Titanic. I think Ariana was definitely there. The possibilities, you guys, the possibilities! And then the ultimate question, of course, again, why were the Dumbledores going to America? Maybe Ariana was already an Obscurial. I don't know. I gotta go read everything I know about Ariana. So I was really excited to learn more about Lita's character in this film, and I'm so bummed that she's already dead. I'm just like, there's so much there, and we put so much time into hyping her up, and then we didn't get to talk to her much in this film. Again, I think that there was more talking to her, more exchanges, and it was cut. I mean, we get that flashback, which I really enjoyed, of her school days. I love that McGonagall's in the flashback. Oh my god. I love that Cormac McLagan's ancestor is in it. But Lita Lestrange, when did she start dating Newt's brother, Theseus? Did she ever date Newt, or did they have like a BFF relationship all through school? Why is his brother named Theseus? His brother sounds like a Greek god. And then they name their next child Newt after a small reptile? Like, of course that kid's gonna have a complex. Why would you do that, parents of Newt Scamander? Now, rewinding back to the end, when we find out that Credence is like, Aurelius, Dumbledore, Grindelwald comes out and he's like, I have a present for you. And he slips this wand out of his sleeve with this big onyx stone on the end of it and just gives it to Credence. And then we see Credence go to the window, give it a wave, and break off the side of a mountain. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm like, first of all, rule number one, the wand chooses the wizard, Harry. And when Ollivander gives a wand to Harry, and Harry gives it a wave, and it knocks over an entire shelf of wands, his reaction is, no, definitely not. Now, when Credence goes to the window, gives his wand a wave, and breaks off the side of a mountain, my reaction is, oh, no. Definitely not. That wand is not right for you. Do we think that Grindelwald actually just gifted Credence, not like a special Credence wand, but Grindelwald's original wand before he got hold of the Elder Wand? We also see in one of these flashbacks, oh my god, I love all the flashbacks of Grindelwald. I love that they got Jamie Campbell Bower back. Jamie Campbell Bower played young Grindelwald in Deathly Hallows, and it was so cool when they showed Jamie Campbell Bower as a youngin' and young Dumbledore, and then morphed Jamie's face into Johnny's face, and it looked so good. I was thrown for a second. Like, that looks real. As far as we know, they had a summer romance, okay? And at the end of the summer, Dumbledore realized that this greater good, hunting down the Hallows thing and wanting to rule over all muggles is wrong. So we shouldn't do it. And there was a fight in the Dumbledore house between Aberforth and Albus and Grindelwald. And during that fight, Ariana got upset, you know, who knows what happened with her obscuralness, and she ended up dead. And because they were all dueling, apparently they don't even know who threw the killing blow. I feel like this is going to be a pivotal scene that we have to see in one of these films. What happened in the Dumbledore house that day? What happened over the summer between Dumbledore and Grindelwald? Was the relationship even, or was it more one-sided? What was it like? And who suggested the blood oath that they would never fight each other? And how did this lost brother come up? Was this summer sometime directly after this incident where his brother died on the Titanic? And how did they figure out that he was still alive, that Lita had switched the babies? And was now present Dumbledore looking for Credence at the same time that Grindelwald was looking for Credence? And did Grindelwald find him first? Was it some sort of race to get to him? Because we find out that Dumbledore is the reason why Newt was in New York in the first place. Did he do this knowing that Newt would stumble upon Credence, that Grindelwald had already gotten to him, but Credence was an Obscurial and needed help, and that Newt could help him? And Dumbledore knew that Newt knew a lot about Obscurials because he had studied one in Africa. I mean, there's so much here. Sometime in the last 2 years, I feel like Dumbledore became aware of the fact that Credence might be his relative. I 110% think he's not sure. The fact that he is Fawkes, what is going to happen to Credence? Things are not going to end well for him unless he has changed his identity and he's a completely different person living in secret. There is no record of a fourth Dumbledore. That reveal was so mind-boggling to me. No. Like, what happened to freaking Credence? Something bad. I mean, like, Dumbledore ends up with Fawkes. Maybe Grindelwald kills him. Maybe Dumbledore gets him over to his side, and to punish Dumbledore, Grindelwald kills Credence. Or, I mean, maybe the Obscurial becomes so powerful that his body can't handle it. I don't know. I guess overall, I just wasn't a huge fan of David Yates' choices in this film. I feel like he's become obsessed with CGI and the spectacle of magic. There's such a huge lack of practical effects, where in the first couple films, practical effects made everything look so real. And in the Fantastic Beasts films, there's something just like slightly unreal about all the beasts and magic. It looks cartoonish. Especially if right now I'm like, oh, that doesn't look real. In 10 years, we're gonna be like, oh, what are all these weird cartoons in here? It's like when they did the Star Wars prequels and they just went crazy with CGI. And then they realized it looks shitty. We have to go back to practical effects for the new movies that we're seeing nowadays. And he was doing a lot of like super close-up shots that were really taking me out of the film completely. Like, why do we have to be this close to Lita's face right now? It's not helping me. It's confusing me. Those sorts of stylistic shots were inconsistent throughout the film. There was like one section with Lita where we had a kind of shaky handheld cam. There was a lot of swirly shots when we were in the Ministry. I mean, and nothing felt like, to me, it didn't feel like there was a pattern. We have to talk about Queenie, because I feel like there were definitely scenes where she was talking to people, maybe even Grindelwald, that were cut, that were pivotal to us really getting on board with her complete 180, jumping ship to his side. Like, I could see where she could do it, where she could be persuaded. I could see it. It was a moment in the film where I feel like it was supposed to be really emotional, like it could have been, when she stepped across that line. But I didn't cry. I felt like I could have gotten there, but I couldn't, because I was like, we're missing some key moments with her where we feel like she'd switch over. When she screamed, like, come with me! I felt that, but also I was like, when did she get here? Well, we missed it. I gotta get my hands on that script book and read the hell out of it. There's so much to sift through, and I am so excited to continue sifting until the next film comes out. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the film, on anything that I talked about. Please, let's talk about it in the comments. I'm Christine. I make videos every Tuesday. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye!